You are listening to WCJV Digital Broadcasting, Youngstown, New York, the CJ Mars Radio Network.
Your radio has been taken over by forces of the unknown. You have been warned, so listen at your own risk. Be prepared as we discuss the paranormal. We will talk about things unseen, unknown, and unexplained. Here on Half Past Dead Paranormal Radios, with your host, Roger Belt. Keep listening, if you dare.
We are live on WCJV Digital Broadcasting out of Youngstown, New York. You're listening to Half Past Dead Paranormal Radio with your host, Roger Belt. And our guest tonight is Janice Brunner Freeze. She is the founder of Neosho County Investigators, and also we have I forgot your last name.
Coy.
Right there. Coy, K-O-Y, right?
C-O-Y.
C-O-Y, yeah. C-O-Y. Coy, okay. How you guys doing tonight?
Awesome.
Great.
Been looking forward to this. Janice has been jumping up and down all week. I want to know, and I do this with everybody, and I want both of your input on this. What got you started in the paranormal investigation? What was the thing that really jumped out at you and said, hey, I want to do this? We'll start with Janice, ladies first.
Well, for me, it started 15 years ago when my twin sister passed. And I had a lot of experiences believing it was her trying to contact me. So that's what got me started. But we also shared the paranormal back in the day before ghost hunters. And we would go to different places in San Diego and do our own little investigation with the old Polaroid camera and the voice recorder. And we did the Whaley House several times, and we'd go around the old missions in San Diego and the Star of India. And then we kind of got away from it for a long time, and then she passed away, and that's what sparked my interest again, was after she passed. And that's what brings me pretty much to today.
Did she, what made you think it was her trying to contact you? What kind of
at one point I had and this sounds really bizarre, but I had a rosary lift to the 9 o'clock position and just fall. We were both raised Catholic. We, did all the Catholic things, your First Holy Communion, your confirmation, all those kinds. So we were very, I believe, we stayed true to our faith. And we had conversations that she would try to give me a sign at one point in time if she ever went first. And I told her I would too, if I ever went first. And then phone calls, landline phone calls. crows sitting on my porch outside my apartment in San Diego right after she passed, which that never had happened before. And then I even had books fly off a shelf, and they were like 12-inch books, very heavy hardback books, leaning at one side and then just totally falling off the shelves. So I believed it was her, or at least I hoped it was her.
Well, I mean, you didn't have anything going on prior to her passing that would make you think it could have been anything else, or?
No, it all started right after she passed.
Okay, well, that's a pretty good sign then.
Yeah.
Okay, Mike.
Yes, sir.
Give us a rundown on your story. What got you involved in this?
Well, I've always liked, I guess, starting when I was a kid, scary movies, science fiction. But really what got me started was about 3.5 years ago, my 2 stepdaughters bought tickets for me and my wife. It was my wife's birthday, the 4 of us, to go to the Brown Mansion in Coffeyville to do an investigation. They do that every so often. And had some stuff go on and just got me really excited about it. And I'd quit smoking, so I needed something to keep my mind off of smoking, and got into ghost hunting.
Wow. Now, I ain't never heard, y'all can tell my southern drawl here, my ain't words and stuff, but I've never heard of that kind of, I've used the patch, and I've used Chantex and the vapor thing and all that stuff, but I've never used ghost hunting as a deterrent for smoking. So I gotta say, that's a new one. But whatever works,
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Whatever works.
That's an interesting way to put it, though. You guys did. Well, I don't know if you were along on the Sally House investigation or not, but I want you to kind of run down the first one first, and then kind of give us whatever you got on the second one, but.
Okay, the first one, when we first went in there, we went in with Angie Parker, who is the lady who runs the tours for the Sally House, and she came in with us and was kind of giving us some history and rundown on the. Sorry, we have a pump in here that growls, and it's kind of disturbing. Anyhow, so. When we first walked in there, we all smelled a really strong scent of roses. And everybody smelled it, and she swore, she said, we don't have any kind of air fresheners or anything like that in this place. And then after that had happened, we all left, and we went out to eat, and then came back, because it was a 17-hour investigation, so we thought, we'll go get our supper, and then we'll come back and start investigating. And by the time we came back, the smell in the house had completely dissipated, at least the rose smell. And then it kind of went to a kind of a musty smell. And the other thing too was going on was it was a really crazy thunder and lightning storm at that investigation that night. In fact, at one point in the basement, we were having to go for higher ground in certain places because the basement was flooding so quickly. But what else went on, Mike?
Well, while we was down in the basement, one of the ladies investigating with us walked over to what they called the portal, and she did not get in front of the motion detector, but it went off, and of course it startled all of us, and my camera went dead, and it came back on, and I lost 46 minutes of video that I'd been recording, which I thought
happened to me one time.
A little bizarre.
I lost an hour of video.
Yeah, and they say that spirits can manipulate your equipment. And when he was talking about in the portal, we had the motion detector set up away from us intentionally, so nobody could set it off. That went off. Mike lost his video the 45 minutes
Yeah.
or whatever. And we also had an Echo Box going down there, and the thing went wild. We had it setting over what they called the pentagram, and we had it setting on a metal chair, and that thing went wild. And I don't usually use the apps, but we were just kind of pulling everything out of our sleeves that night, and we had one going, and it was saying things I'd never heard it say before. And one of them was "help me," and the other one was a heart attack, or I'm having a. It was like full sentences, and that thing never said full sentences before. So that was kind of wild because it was all happening. All those things were happening at the same exact time. So it was pretty exciting.
Well, what were some of the sentences?
Having a heart attack.
Mm-hmm.
Please help me. Those are the only two I can remember right off the top of my head. But like I said, it's never even said that before. And then there was like lots of names coming out, and I never would get names either. So, but I don't know. It was a pretty interesting night. I had also started going up the stairs at one point, and there is a bedroom all the way to the left, and then the master bedroom, and then the bathroom, and then the nursery.
Okay. Isn't there a bedroom like toward the front of the house when you go up the stairs?
Right.
That's the one I think that they claimed caught fire before or whatever.
Well, that's the room that I saw, and it looked to me like something that was like 3.5 feet, 4 feet, dart from that room into the room next to it. Well, I was heading into the bathroom, so it's like, I just got right into the bathroom and flipped the light on. Yeah, it was exciting and scary. But I definitely saw something. But I had nothing going in that area that could have, documented that, because I had the night vision going on in I had it set up in the nursery.
Okay, now at the top of the stairs, that landing, on the movie, the video that I watched, that's where supposedly the little girl was seen. I'm not sure if you're familiar with it, but I watched a documentary video. I think it was a sightings episode, actually.
And what was it showing?
And it was showing the spirit of the little girl.
Go across the landing, yeah.
Like on the top of the landing.
Yeah, I seen that. I watched that too.
Yeah, and I thought that was interesting. And the one guy that was there, he's I can't think of his name for some reason off the top of my head, but he was pretty famous for his investigations and stuff and evidence he captured, and he had captured that spirit standing at the top of the stairs of the little girl.
Okay, I didn't see that, but I could definitely feel a presence up there. And I know a lot of people have gone in and said they felt a lot of negativity in there, but we had pretty much the opposite, completely opposite feelings about the place. And even in the nursery, it seemed quite playful. Some of the, tell them about your...
Using dowsing rods?
His dowsing rods.
I made myself a set of dowsing rods about a year ago, and it's amazing. I like using them. But we was up in the nursery, and one of our investigators' name was Sally.
Spelled just like Sally House.
Yeah. And I think Janice and Tina and Jeff, you went downstairs, and they had left. And I asked the spirit to point my dowsing rods towards Sally. And they did, and it freaked her out. And she got up and started pacing back and forth across the room. And without me saying another word, the dowsing rods was following her.
Huh.
And I never had that happen before. It was crazy. And then she started saying that she was hearing a clicking sound. And she said, "You can't hear that." I said, "No." She said, "It's rather loud," but she said, "I hear a clicking sound." And she said, "It's right in front of me." And shortly after that, she said, "I've got to get out of here." She started feeling bad, so she went downstairs. And then the second time we went, with just me and Janice and Tina, we was in the closet in the front bedroom, and I was using the dowsing rods again, and got the rods to point to Tina, and then she started asking me, "Do you hear that clicking sound?" And that just that freaked me out, because they was both describing the same sound that only they could hear. And I never come across anything quite like that.
And I had something kind of come over me at that investigation, sitting by the window in the nursery on the floor. The investigation was supposed to go until 9 o'clock in the morning, and it was, I think, around 4 o'clock.
Mm-hmm.
I just had this overwhelming feeling to just shut everything down. It was over. And it was. At that point in time, we started packing everything up. Wasn't quite sure what was going on until the second time we were there. And I know we're jumping into the second time already, but that's exactly that same area is where I picked up a really good EVP, and it wasn't on our digital recorders. It was picked up by the night vision camera, and it was, like I say, it was in exactly that same area. So I was just wondering if there was any correlation to what I was feeling that night where I was sitting, and then us picking up that EVP. I've sent it over to a few people. I put it through a voice analyzer, and still not real sure what it's saying. And but I've had several people say it's a little girl's voice, and I'm going to try to clean that up more and get it posted.
To me, it sounded like the little girl's voice said "hi," just plain as day.
Okay.
Okay.
How familiar with the story or either one of y'all about the little girl Sally?
Well, I've heard different stories. I've heard that there wasn't a Sally. I've heard that there was a little girl that was operated in there, in that house and died. I've heard that there was psychics that came in and just dubbed the spirit in there Sally. So I don't know for sure.
Okay.
Something different?
According to the documentary, and I keep referring back to this because it's really basically all I have on the house, and I've watched like 2 or 3 different ones on it. The little girl was a mixed child.
I've heard that one too. Yep.
And I think the man, the husband, didn't like the idea. Now, whether or not he was supposed to have had something to do with her demise, I'm not sure, but anyway, and you've also probably seen where it shows the cemetery where she's supposed to be buried at.
Yes.
And, well, they went to look for her, and they finally did find a grave, pretty much secluded. But anyway, the reason I'm asking is because, what you brought up was the point. I've heard that there's no such spirit as Sally in there, and then I've heard that, she was given that name by somebody, and then there's supposed to be the true story of, who Sally was. Now, in the one documentary that I watched, and I don't know if they could ever really verify that it was supposed to be the little girl spirit doing it, but the people that lived in the house, the guy kept getting clawed and everything, and it would happen right on camera.
Yes.
And to me, that would be, God, how would you deal with that? You're just sitting there, and somebody's got a camera on you, and they're talking to you, and all of a sudden these whelps and cuts start popping up on you.
Right.
You can't fake that. How do you fake that?
See, and that's where I kind of go with, when we do investigations, a lot of times there are teams that don't want the family there or business owners or whatever. I, on the other hand, like to have the people there because I think a lot of times spirits are not necessarily attached to the building, but attached to the people that come through there. And I believe that certain things will happen with certain people there. We had one lady in one investigation we did. We had her and her husband there for half of the night, and then we had her leave. And the husband leave. We didn't have them leave. They left, and they went and spent the night somewhere else. And a lot of the activity just ceased after she walked out the door. I don't know if that has had anything to do with it or not. I'm still kind of up in the air about that whole idea. What do you think, Roger?
So was there anything, and that's possible. Now, sometimes I think spirits will be quiet when certain people's around if they don't like them.
Right.
You know, it's just like if, you know, any living person, if you walk into a room and there's somebody in there that you don't like, you're going to go the other way.
Well, and on that second Sally House one, we were kind of wondering if it seemed, pardon the pun, it seemed really dead that night. So when I went through our evidence and found that EVP, in fact, I've got it right here on my phone. I would like to play it if you, maybe you can hear it.
You can try it. We'll see what it does.
Oh, it stopped. Why did it stop? Did you hear that?
They said, hey?
We don't know what it's saying yet.
Sound like hey.
That's what I think it sounds like. Hi.
Well, and then Mike was talking, and I were talking, and we were quite a ways away from the night vision camera, and it has a really good audio on it. In fact, it picks up better than my voice recorder a lot of times. And we were kind of towards the hallway, and we were talking about time lapses, and you can hear our two voices. So whatever that was right next to that night vision camera, was right next to that window I was talking about that I was sitting next to on the first investigation when I decided to just shut it all down. But it was like right next to that night vision camera, whatever that was. So you thought it said what, Roger?
Sound like it said hey.
Hey.
Pretty straightforward, pretty, you know.
And it was louder than our voices. And when I first heard it, my first initial thought was it sounded like a cat. And then I thought, well, could it have been one of those, because we were in the bedroom and there's all these stuffed animals on the bed. But I was like, even if it had been one of the stuffed animals, that was right next to the night vision camera. The bed was quite a ways away from the night vision camera. But we were sitting on that bed and moving the bed, and I don't know, did Tina lay in the bed?
No, she on the floor.
It sounded like a little girl, and it sounded like a very exclamational hey.
Yeah. Well, like I say, I'm going to do some more work on it and see. And there's been times where we've had reverse DVPs where we didn't hear it until we reversed it, and then we heard it. So we'll see what happens. In fact, we're going to slow down on some of our investigations. We decided because we're backed up, I think, like four investigations. Yeah, 4 investigations where we really need to go over what we got. And they just keep coming in, we keep going, and That's not good. We need to get busy and see what we got, because I almost feel like we have like a present to open, because I know there's more in there. And that was kind of like when we were at the, what's that?
Well, I love you. I thought the child's voice said hello.
Okay, good. Mary Ann said she thought a child's voice said hello. So
we have hi, hey, and hello here.
I guess if you're from Tennessee or wherever, it could be different.
Well, if you're from Tennessee, it said hey.
Right. That's where I was going with that.
But it sounded like it said hey.
Yeah.
Like really strong. And it was a little girl's voice.
Yeah. There's another thing about the Sally house. One of the things I watched, that there's, I guess the place at one time, I don't know if it still is, was owned by a police officer.
It is.
And I guess he was in there one night, and another police officer, and somebody picked up an EVP or heard something say for the cops to get out.
Huh.
And one of the investigators we have is a police officer. And I noticed the night, because he had to leave early, and after he left, things seemed to pick up.
Yeah, that's right. It doesn't like cops, maybe. We thought we might have slowed things down on that first one, too, because we also have members of the church, and one is a church secretary, and we did this long, drawn-out prayer before, because we didn't want to get scratched.
Right.
So we thought maybe we slowed things down, but it actually didn't slow things down at all.
Now, we always do the St. Michael's prayer before we start, and then we do a closing prayer before we leave, to bind whatever to the place,
right. Kind of like with the Ouija board.
It's a safety tip, right. Anybody and everybody should do that.
Right. But as for the Sally house, first and second, I think it's definitely needs to be explored more. It's one of those kind of places I want to keep going back to. And I don't know if that's a good thing. It's like I've got this fascination or attraction to it already. But, when you were talking about the scratching, that was Tony Pickman, and he was even scratched again when he went in there with the Ghost Adventures. I saw that he got it on the back of his head.
Well, obviously, there's something about him that the spirit just don't like.
Absolutely.
There's got to be something about him that...
And that's where I kind of wonder about past life regression, or, if he was something else or someone else in a past life. I don't know.
Anything is possible.
Yeah.
But there's something about him that stands out that this spirit just does not like him. Why would the spirit just attack him, not his wife? Why? And why was it that after all this time he can go back in there with somebody else and it happens again? It's him. It's something about him.
Yeah, maybe.
How many other people have went in there and reported being scratched or something like that?
Actually, Denise Pridemore, who is with Paranormal King Radio, she does the tours in there. She what do you want to call it? She does like the day tours for the Sally house. And she'll go in with people too that are doing long investigations, if they invite her in. But I know that I believe she's been scratched, and I believe she's been bruised. And so it has happened to other people. They do have also a diary that when you're in there, you can write down any experiences that you have while you're in there. And it's an ongoing book.
Right.
But I didn't see anything like that. But I didn't do a lot of the reading either. I just kind of glanced through it.
Okay, I'm going to hold y'all up a minute. We're live on WCJV Digital Broadcasting out of Youngstown, New York. You're listening to Half Past Dead Paranormal Radio with your host, Roger Belt, and my guest is Janice Brunner Freeze and Mike Coy, and we shall get back at it.
And I was going to say we have a YouTube channel too, and we have quite a few of our investigations on there. And jumping away from the Sally House, one of the better investigations, or one of our best investigations, was Missouri State Penitentiary. There is a lot going on in that place. And I actually got scratched in one of the women's cells there at the penitentiary. We had crazy readings on our, and it was actual, to me, it was intelligent communication, because we would ask it to do certain things on the millimeter or certain things on the K2.
Talking about eating a chocolate chip cookie.
Mike's looking at the chat. But that's a definite place if anybody wants to go and experience that building or that prison. It's a pretty awesome place.
I'm going to tell you a story real quick, and this has nothing to do with paranormal, unless you look at CJ as strange and paranormal. She got upset with me one time. We were talking on Skype, and I was crinkling a bag of potato chips, right? You know, and I'm sitting there eating, and I'm crinkling my bag. She goes, "What are you crinkling?" And I told her, and she's like, "How dare you do that in front of me and not offer me any?" And all. And so ever since then, she's gone out of her way to let me know what she's eating and how good it is and all this stuff. So I had to throw that in there. But
I was just looking in the chat, and Mary Ann was saying that maybe that Tony Pickman reminds the spirits of someone who has harmed them in the past.
Yeah, there's something about him, you know, that stands out. And it could be a past life thing.
And it could be something that, you know, behind closed doors, you don't know what type of person he really is.
Exactly. You know,
go ahead.
Look at this guy, and I have this uncanny ability to look at people and know they're bad or good. And when you look at this guy, he just doesn't look right to me anyway.
And that was another thing too. I did a little research on YouTube, and I'm not trying to bash the guy, but I did find a few videos that were showing that they could possibly be making the story up. I don't know. And even to the point of having glass in his pocket. I don't know. I don't know how much, if they've really gained anything from that. Any books or anything. I don't know. But I don't know. I'm always the debunker. I'm always trying to figure out the logical reason for everything. And I am probably the biggest skeptic on the team, so everybody brings what they've got to me, and most of the time I throw a lot of it out. Kind of the big bad meanie. But it's even like with the orbs, and it has to be a really, really good orb. In fact, we got one of those at Child's Play Graveyard in Kansas, Burlington, Kansas. In fact, the person who took the photo is Gene Morrow. He's from the radio station The Dog there in Burlington. And I think the photo he took was pretty remarkable, and we have it on the paranormal page, and I post it periodically off and on at times. It even won a photo contest for a free tour in North Carolina or something, for some type of ghost tour. But, or actually it was Florida. And I had offered it to Gene since he was the one who took it. I didn't want to take credit for his photo. But anyhow, at the Child's Play graveyard, that, like I say, that orb was remarkable. But normally, when it comes to orbs, if I can't see the way they are traveling, I usually throw them out. And that's why I'd rather film them than photograph them.
Well, most everybody knows my philosophy on orbs. In case you don't, I will fill you in. When an orb floats up to my face and says, "Hey, Raj, I'm an orb entity," or it turns into an apparition right there in front of my face and says, "Boo," I'll count it as evidence. But I haven't had that happen yet, so I don't count any of them.
Okay, now I don't feel so bad.
That's just my philosophy on orbs, and I've argued with people over this. Or let me rephrase that. People have argued with me over this because I ignore them because I don't believe in orbs. But
we have just recently, in the last year, purchased a new piece of equipment, and it's the SLS camera. Bill Chappell's invention or creation, and we like that quite a bit. It maps out anomalies, makes little stick figures. I fell in love with it when we did the Belvedere Winery, and David Schrader from Darkness Radio had one, and somebody was telling us stories about the Red Hat ladies down there singing nursery rhymes, and how several things started happening. So I decided I'd start the round of nursery rhymes, and quite a few other ladies joined in, and I'd sing one, and then somebody else would sing one, and next thing you know, it's an anomaly. It shows up right next to me, and I'm short. I'm 4'11". It's standing next to me, and it's probably, what would it be if I'm 4'11" and it was to my waist, Mike?
You want to know something? You keep bringing up about how short you are.
Uh-huh.
My grandmother was 4'2".
Okay.
Oh, wow.
Then I'm not that short.
I'll tell you something. I'd rather fight a dadgum wildcat
Than your grandmother?
You ain't kidding.
Well, this little anomaly was jumping up and down, and it was waving its hands up and down. I thought it was pretty neat. We also got another one in where did you put dead people? The
morgue.
The morgue, yeah, that place. David Schrader got one down there too. That was pretty good, and he was asking it to lift its hand up, and it was doing what he was telling it to do. But we like that piece of equipment. But I've got a little glitch with it. My sensors aren't working, but I got online and they said that could be replaced, so I'm going to see if once it's replaced, if it fixes the problem. If it doesn't, then I need to get it back to them so they can fix the camera. They're real pricey, so.
Okay, now that's the one you were talking about. What kind of camera is it again?
An SLS structured.
What does it do that's different?
It picks up, well, it all started with the Kinects on the video games. And it'll pick up actually anomaly that looks like a stick figure.
Okay.
And like Janice was saying up there, I didn't see it, but they talk about you can talk to them, and actually sometimes the spirit will react to, like you can get it to raise its arm. Or when we was at a place here about a month ago and had one tapping my hand, and I could feel a tingle in my hand when it was doing it.
Is that the one in the bathroom?
Mm-hmm.
That was the other bathroom, but then the other bathroom, we were at another investigation, and it looked like a little child sitting on the toilet. It was a little stick figure, and it looked like a mother standing next to it, and then the little child jumps off of the toilet and goes to the sink, and then the mother goes, I'm just guessing it's the mother, went with it to the sink, and then it just disappeared. So, wow. I mean, and then in that same investigation, we were picking up on something on the night vision, and it was a ball of light that left the arm of the couch and flew into the bedroom at the same exact time. So it was able to be, what's the word I want? Corroborated? Correlation. It was correlation is the word I want to use. It was happening at the same time on the night vision camera, and it was happening the same time on the SLS. And in the SLS, it showed the little stick figure, and it looked like it's child size, jump off the arm of the couch and get on the floor and like crawl into the bedroom. At the same time, the orb was shown on the night vision camera. So that was pretty neat because we had two pieces of equipment picking up the same thing at the same time. And we got to witness it too. That was even neater.
Now, why do they show up as stick figures though?
That's just the way the camera sees it. The story I heard was, I guess a gentleman was playing a game on the Kinects, and and there was nobody else home, and he could see himself as a stick figure because it maps you out and while you're playing a video game. And then all of a sudden, another stick figure walked behind him. And that's where it all started, I guess.
So now when you use this camera, are you using it hooked to some type of gaming system?
No. It's all self-contained.
Yeah, and it's like a little iPad that's underneath it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. In fact, you can pull the two of them apart. And, yeah, if you go to the digital dowsing company, and it's, usually Ghost Shop is the one who carries it, but if you have any problems with it, they're going to send you right back to Bill Chappell's people. I'm learning that real quick. So, but it's digital dowsing, and just look up the SLS camera, and it has quite a description. I didn't know very much about it, and I'm still learning about it, but I was impressed with what I was seeing when David Schrader had it, so it made me want to get it quick. But, let's see. I was thinking of other investigations.
Well,
to date, we're at our last investigation, we were at 55, so, and I keep track of all of them. And I keep track of a lot of the private residents I stay in contact with too, just in case, and just check up on them and see if everything's okay.
Right.
Still going okay, because we had a pretty hairy one that we did, and we went 3 different times, and we went even with a Wiccan the last time, because they had a lot of problems going on in the house, and there was 2 teenage kids. But things seem to be going pretty good. Number 55, what? We're looking at the chat.
Oh, she was asking, was that a code or the number 55 or a code or whatever?
The number of investigations.
Oh, number of investigations to date. We've been a team for 3 years and 5 months.
And see, that just goes to show you right there that just because you have a team doesn't mean you're out investigating every other night and you got all this crazy stuff going on all the time, because you don't.
Well, and we do events, and what was that? Was that on your end, Roger?
What was what?
Oh, we heard this beep. Oh, I know what it was. Sorry. We have a sensor towards the front of the property, and when anything passes in front of it, it makes the sound that just went off. I don't know if you heard it, but we heard it. That lets us know if we got any trespassers on the property.
You're out in the boonies, right?
Yeah, we're in the boonies.
It was Bigfoot.
On 6 acres. Well, my son is so graciously given up his trailer for us to set up both the laptops He's smiling at me. He did something.
She heard it. It was Bigfoot. I'm
It
telling you.
was Bigfoot.
Yeah. He's coming to the door. He wants some freaking garlic. I brought that up because I remember my brother said he was watching some videos one time, and he pulled up this one that it was this really old lady talking about Bigfoot came to her house and knocked on the door one night and said, she opened the door and said, "Can I help you?" And he said, "Garlic." Said, "I have some powdered garlic. Will that do?" "No." I said, "Okay." Bigfoot came to the door and asked for garlic, but he didn't want powdered garlic. He was being a picky Bigfoot, on top of that. So, yeah, that was funny.
Reminds me of that Mountain Monster show that they have on now.
Yeah.
So, I love those guys. I was just kind of going through a lot of our different investigations, and like I say, a lot of them are home investigations or private investigations, and I don't really share those, but we did a bed and breakfast quite a few times in Fort Scott, Kansas, and then we did it wasn't supposed to be an investigation because they don't like paranormal investigators in the old fort, but I did take a few pieces of equipment in my purse. And it was a pretty interesting day there. That too bad they don't let people in there to do that because it's a very active fort. We did a big hotel. It was 12 stories. And it was corporate office brought us in Pittsburgh, Kansas, and that was the Bessie Motel. And we came away from that one with not a whole lot. I think a lot of stories were, passed around through people that had lived there. But, it doesn't necessarily mean there wasn't anything. They just didn't come out and play that particular night. What are we seeing? Oh, yeah, equipment in my purse, yeah. Oops, I do that a lot. The equipment in the purse. Especially if they don't want you, investigating.
Yeah, I was going to tell you, Roger, I was at the Belvoir Winery get-together that weekend that Janice and her group was up there, and that was before I knew Janice and Neosho County Paranormal. And in fact, at one point I was standing right behind them. But I was in what they called the orphanage, which was an old hospital, and actually got touched on the back of my leg.
That place is pretty active. The Belvedere, that's where we were getting that's where we were getting all the hits on the SLS, and in the morgue, everybody's K2s were going off at the same, in correlation. They were all lighting up at the same time, the same amount of lights. That's a pretty active place. I'm just thinking, we try not to do graveyards, but I do.
We do every now and then.
Yeah.
We get bored and it's been a while, and we like to stay, in tune, so to speak. We'll get together and go out to a cemetery or something and, just practice more, like, is, I guess, what you call it. But that's where we got the picture of the lady in red. I think you've seen that.
And that was at a graveyard?
It was at a little bitty cemetery way out in the boonies. Don't have a name. It's all growed up. And we were sitting there just taking random pictures, And we was always looking ahead to make sure that we didn't see anything with our eyes that, might show up in the picture, and we would wonder what it was. And we were taking pictures like that, and that showed up in one of the pictures, and it was not there when we looked out there. So, that's one that nobody has yet been able to debunk that one.
Janice with the cat. I don't talk like a Kansas accent, do I? I hope not. I've been here 10 years. We were looking at the chat. But I try to stay out of I don't want people thinking we're disrespecting. And I just recently went to a graveyard and did an SP7 Ghost Box session. And I don't know if there's anybody on here, but it was my husband's past wife. And he never goes and visits her, and it makes me sad that he doesn't. So I went and visited her and took my Ghost Box. And
yes, you do, Jan.
yeah, I know I do. But that was a really, actually, that got like 19,000 hits or views, that SB7 Ghost Box, but it was that particular, and God, I'm stuttering. I'm getting excited just thinking about it. I did it on my phone, and I did the Ghost Box session, and I couldn't download it in the graveyard because it was out in the sticks. And so by the time I got home and listened to it all, I was really excited with what I'd heard. And it was several different voices, and they were all saying, "Help me," and really clear. So it made me want to go back and figure out who needs help and with what. So, and my husband said it actually sounded like his past wife. So and it kind of bothered him. He's like, "What does she need help with?" I said, "Oh no, I'll go back and find out, George." So, but it's not funny, but it kind of was. I got a dark sense of humor anyway, so.
If you can laugh about it, it's not bad.
Right.
The echo comes.
What's that?
I have an echo.
You have an echo? Not
Yeah,
from us.
I didn't have.
Is somebody running two sound systems?
No. The chat is completely off. You don't think it's that radio?
Usually when this happens, somebody who is on the show talking has a plate running.
Has a what running?
You're breaking up, Roger. So, and that just started. Oh, we're not listening to the show.
Well,
I'm hearing it though somewhere.
Yeah.
Okay, I don't hear it now, so whoever it was must have stopped it. Okay, y'all still hear me okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
My son's outside, so I just don't know if he's on anything.
Kat said it is Roger's end, but it couldn't be me because I haven't done anything.
Okay.
So.
And nothing's changed here.
Is it better now?
Yeah, it's not doing it now.
Okay.
No, you're not breaking up.
Okay, because it was kind of perplexing. Sorry. I was just going through some more of our investigations, and I was thinking about, Mike was talking about the Browns Mansion, and we did one there around between Christmas and Thanksgiving, and that's a really interesting building. And we did a lot of times we try to, if we're going to do things like that, try to do something for the community. And we ended up doing a toy drive for twins that had lived in another little town, and we're planning on setting up another event there. And I was going to say, too, we're sponsors for Mineral Wells Texas Paracon, and it's December 4th through the 6th. And they still, I believe, have 20 VIP tickets available. And it's going to have a really good lineup. We're going to be one of the tables set up there. They are going to have 2 different investigations. Do you remember the...
No, I was hoping it was the hotel, but it's not going to be the hotel.
Okay.
It was the American Legion?
Yeah, one was an American Legion, and another was a house.
Just a house.
Yeah. But it's going to be a good weekend, a fun weekend. So I kind of wanted to get that out there.
Dita's asking what the date and location is.
It's December 4th through the 6th, Mineral Wells, Texas. You can go to their website. If you find me on Facebook, I can help you get there. Janice Brunner Freeze on Facebook. Or you can go to Neosho County Paranormal Investigators. What are you laughing about?
Roger's playing with a hand grenade.
Are you playing with a hand grenade, Roger, on the air?
Oh, I throw them at Dita all the time.
You do it all the time?
Yeah, only they're not hand grenades, they're pineapples with pins.
You're funny. Okay, I'm looking for...
You gotta, it's kind of like when you hide a claymore, you know what I mean? You don't have it just sitting out in the open for the soldiers to come through and see it. You got to kind of camouflage it.
Yeah.
So I put the hand grenades inside a pineapple. You know, and I say, here, Dita, catch this pineapple. And as I throw it, my finger's holding the pin, right?
Yeah.
So, anyway.
And she tosses them back.
She called it and threw it back at me.
I was looking for the mineral wells. I'm just trying to get the info on it. And that's why I was quiet. What did I just do? But they actually have it even set up on YouTube, and it is a whole ad for Mineral Wells Paracon 2015. And
sorry, laughing at the chat.
Mike's laughing at the chat. I'm trying to do some research here. You're messing me up, Mike. Anything else you want to know, Roger? I almost said Mike.
Good grief, I got lost. Or my mind got sidetracked. Can you believe that?
On the grenade and the pineapple?
Or tanks and bazookas.
Oh, there it is.
Oh.
We do. We'll put it on the paranormal page quite often. A lot of people don't like to do that, but I can't say we don't care. We don't mind. I've heard people say in the past that they've had things stolen from other teams. I'm thinking if somebody likes our stuff enough to steal it, then go for it. But we are on, we have a YouTube channel, and I think, and it's not a lot because we are kind of, we've lost our audio video tech. So a lot of the technical side my son helps me with, but he doesn't go on investigations, but he puts things, he uploads things to the computer from, all our evidence from the different pieces of equipment. But now I lost my train of thought. What was the question? Sorry. Oh, the YouTube channel, 13 videos on the YouTube channel. So you can go there, and it's Neosho County Paranormal. And I'm going to
link to that.
Do I have a link?
Yeah, you can actually post a link in the chat room. You have to leave off the HTTP stuff though. Just do the www dot.
Okay, I'm thinking.
What to do, dude?
A link for the paranormal page. Mm-hmm. I do for the website, and the website will get you over to the paranormal page.
Well, I mean, just a link they can go to visit the YouTube or whatever, or the paranormal page, or announce the web page to listeners not in here can share in it. Right. So if you can just announce the link, how to get to it.
It's Neosho County Paranormal.com for the website, The website is linked to the Facebook. I don't know if it's linked to the YouTube. YouTube is... I'm looking really quickly. Sorry. I should have been more prepared. Where's my YouTube? Let's see.
I'm still puzzling that in my dents. Okay, there's the .com website in the chat for everybody.
Okay, and on the YouTube, it's N.C.P.I. / Neosho County Paranormal. We actually have two up, and one has one video and the other has the 13. We were getting ready to switch everything over because we had some problems in the past, but it's all being left alone now. Being threatened with lawsuits. Works pretty good.
Threatened with lawsuits?
Yeah, our audio video tech.
Okay.
We told her to keep her hands off everything. So.
We got to go to a heartbreak now. We'll be back in 5 minutes. And I'm in again.
You are listening to WCJV Digital Broadcasting, Youngstown, New York, the CJ Mars Radio Network.
Okay, everybody, we're back. Echo is gone. So, where were we when we so rudely got interrupted? No, I'm just kidding. Anyway,
glitch was on our end, I do think.
we're going to open up the phone lines, and if anybody wants to call and ask questions or has any input on anything we were talking about, 716-745-4266. Feel free to call in, ask us anything, offer any input, whatever you want to do. This is a family-oriented place. Okay, now, we've covered in the Paracon and all that. Let's get back into some spooky stuff. What would you say out of all your investigations was the creepiest thing you ever run across?
Well, I would have to say, do you have one, Mike?
Probably the creepiest one I come across was investigating my oldest stepdaughter's house after they moved out. One of my granddaughters was always complaining about the house, a couple places she didn't like to be by herself. And I went over and we was going to do an investigation one weekend, and I went over Thursday before to do a walkthrough with the K2 and recorder, and got some weird feelings and some K2 hits a couple places in the house. And I called my stepdaughter the next morning and told her where it was at, and she goes, no, I won't say the word, but she said that's exactly where her daughter was afraid to be by herself at in the house.
Wow.
Yeah, it was I'm thinking she's a sensitive, and she's picking up, and one lady that was with me doing an investigation says, I can't see how they would be able to stand to live in this house anyway, because some of the stuff we was picking up. And the youngest one had a friend, and I think she called her Stitches or something like that. And she told her father that Stitches didn't like him and wanted him dead.
Wow.
Yeah. But thank God they don't live there anymore.
Right. So, do they own the house, or?
No, they sold it.
So you went in there and done this before they sold the house?
Right. And I hope the next people that live in there aren't having any problems. I didn't, you don't want to go say anything to them, but.
Right. Hey, did you know you have spirits in your house?
And I was going to say, because when Mike started talking, I think that's one reason I had him go first, so I could think about this a second. I have a piece of equipment that, what is it?
Mary Ann wants to know if you've ever had something you couldn't handle.
Have we ever had anything we couldn't handle? Well, I kind of felt that way when we were doing the investigation in a little town in Kansas, the one we brought in, the Wiccan lady, the gal. And, because and I was getting to that piece of equipment, the gauze meter, right? That gauze meter goes off a certain way and a certain sound when there seems to be dark or negative energy around. And we had that go off that way at Missouri State Penitentiary. In fact, it was going off in the dungeon, and Steve from Ghost Adventures was trying to explain, he was giving his explanations on the coins that they used, these like glowing coins that they used to have down in the dungeon that the prisoners would use for like recreation. And the gauze meter started going off, and he wanted us to turn it off. Well, the only way to turn it off is to take the battery out of it, because once it starts going off, nothing's going to stop it. But it only goes off and makes a certain sound, like I say, when there's something dark. But we had it go off at Missouri State Penitentiary that way, at this little house in Kansas, the place we went back 3 times. And it went off that way. I was talking to you about a hospital in Kansas that I can't reveal the name or the town because a family lives in there. And, and another time it went off, it was a place called the Haunted Asylum, and it was in Chitopa, Kansas, and we were doing investigations there quite a bit, and the place burned down. But when that meter goes off that way, I can pretty much know that there's something not so nice there. And in this house in Walnut, it was going crazy. And in the bathroom, the window was right over a well that they had in the backyard. And the daughter had been scratched several times. The mother was being plagued a lot. And then we were getting ready to close everything down. We were zipping up our bags and closing everything up. And all of a sudden we saw this white light go across the ceiling, and it was a crackling sound. And to me, I was thinking like poltergeist, and everybody's the hair on their arms stood up. So to say the least, we opened all our equipment back up and said, we're not leaving yet. But that place was pretty hairy, and they had a lot of stories that they were telling us as the days progressed and the weeks, and we kept coming back, finding out about them using Ouija boards and spending lots of time in the graveyards.
Dita was asking if there was a static charge or something.
We actually saw it moving across the ceiling, so it almost looked like a worm, like a big light worm. I'd never seen anything like that before. In fact, the mayor of that little town came, I believe, on the 2nd or 3rd investigation because he was the brother-in-law to the person. And the things that were going on in that house were so hairy for him, he decided he was just going to stand outside and not even be a part of what we were doing in there anymore. But and they had talked about burning the house down, but I was like, that's going to extremes to burn the house down. But we ended up leaving them stones, and protection stones, and everything seemed to clear up after that. But I also think the dynamics in the house were kind of chaotic between the whole family, 2 teenagers, the husband, wife, and once the family started to repair their relationships, all the activity seemed to stop.
Well, now it's a known thing that if you have entities in a house and you have like a couple that fights a lot and all that, all the negativity seems to bring out more of the, the haunting aspect.
Right. And like I said, there was, I believe at the time, a 14-year-old girl and a 16-year-old boy. And that's been a couple of years ago. And I'm still friends with the gal on Facebook, and I always let people know that we're always here if you ever need us to come back. Well, we have no problems coming back several times if you need us. So, but I would say that house was probably the most disturbing or active investigation that I've ever had. It really kind of proved to me there are dark things out there. Not quite sure what that was, but it seems to be better now.
Okay, what was the mansion y'all mentioned earlier?
The Browns Mansion in Coffeyville, Kansas.
Yeah, what did you do in there? What happened in there?
Well, you've been there, Mike.
Yeah, it's I've been there 3 times, and it's always something different. And that's the first place I ever went. But probably one of the coolest things that happened was we was down in the basement, and they had a butler, and his room was down there. And it was a group of people, most of them I didn't know. And we was going in there, and we had 3 K2 meters laying 3 different places in the room. And all 3 of them was taking hits at the same time. And this little young girl, probably put her 19, 20 years old, started to walk in. She backed up. She says, "I'm not going in there." And every time somebody would mention the girl's name, the K2s would light up. It was like the butler. I can't remember what his name was. But like he was wanting her to come into his room, which I thought was pretty neat.
For some reason I'm thinking it was Bill.
I can't remember.
I can't remember either. But we were in there in that same area in the butler's quarters, and we had the floor is concrete, and there was a lamp there that was glass, and nobody was even near that lamp, and we all clearly heard it, and it was even caught on the audio for the night vision, but it sounded like it was clanking. And did you have any others in there? We had a pretty good session in one of the bedrooms with a SB7 ghost box. And then we were walking down the hallway, and whatever it was the height of a child, because the K2 would start going crazy, and the Mel, it would at like about a 3.5 foot level. And if you go any lower, it would stop. If you went any higher, it'd stop. And it just seemed to follow us down the hallway. And then when we were leaving, or the stairway, coming down the stairway, we started asking questions, and the same thing started happening. We started asking the Mel, "If you're there, would you please..."
Somebody need to put Janice, that sounded bad.
What did I say?
You had a good session in the bedroom.
Okay. Mike's over here laughing. Threw me off my train of thought. But from what we were getting in there, I was believing we were in contact with children. Let's put it that way.
Dita's over there cracking up about it.
Yeah.
Did you have a good session in the bedroom?
Yeah, we had a really good session in the bedroom. There was like 8 of us.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, we all crowded in the bedroom. And it's a pretty neat place, and they have
There was 8 of them in there.
8 is enough, huh?
Yeah, 8 is enough.
But there is Brown Mansion. It is a pretty neat place. A lot of history, and these investigations that you go on, they give you the history of the house. And one thing that's interesting is Mr. Brown was like 6'7", 6'8", and his wife was like 4'11", 4'10", 4'11". And certain things in the house when he had it built was made for short people, and other things were made for tall people. Like part of the stairway, the steps were different heights for him and her. And there is a story I've heard several times of a lady going up to the Brown Mansion and wanting to get in, but was locked up. And the groundskeeper come up, and they was talking about it. And she said, "Well, who's the little boy I keep seeing running around inside?" And he said, "There shouldn't be a little boy inside."
Yeah, I believe there was 2 children that died. One of
Mm-hmm.
he was a diabetic, I believe, and then the other one of some type of fever.
Yes.
It's been a long time since we were there. In fact, we're getting ready to try to set that up again. And when we did it the last time, at least when I went, because Mike went on his own before he came to the team. But we are going to try to do that again between November and December. But now with the Paracon, I don't know about that on the dates for sure. But I believe we invited, by the time we were done, we had 26 people on that investigation. And it actually went really well. We broke everybody up into groups. But we had shared it on the paranormal page and invited people in. We've invited people into the Pythian Castle, paying, at times I've paid for tickets, like to Missouri State Penitentiary and to the Pythian, and just invited people off of the page to come in. We believe in our tagline, "Come along for the ride." We bring people along for the ride.
Dana said something about scarlet fever. What's she talking about?
Yeah, that's what was it a boy child or a girl child?
I think it's a boy.
Boy. Yeah, I'm not real clear on the history. What are you laughing about?
Marianne.
What did Marianne say?
Octo orgy.
Octo orgy. Orgy.
Yeah. Yeah, you're making Mike laugh too hard too over here. Because I'm getting thrown off my... See, a lot of times too when I go into an investigation, a lot of people like to know the history on a place. I personally like to go in there blind. I have a lot of physical things happen to my body when I go into an investigation. I don't know what you call it, or I don't like to label myself with, at one point in time I used to think of it as being clairvoyant, but now they've come up with so many new terms through the years. And, but I get physically affected. One of my biggest physical reactions or whatever is, I get cramps in my feet really bad. So if I go into a place and that starts happening, I pretty much know that we're going to get something. That happened to me several times. It just happened to me recently. We just did one a couple weeks ago, and it was a private residence. But where was I going with that?
I don't know.
I don't know either. Lost my train of thought. Let's see. Favorite investigation and why?
Marianne fell off. Marianne fell back on.
What's that?
Marianne fell off and fell back on. In other words, she dropped out of the chat and come back.
Okay. So she's been investigation and why.
not the freakiest. Just
Okay, my best investigation. And why? Well, I've got a few, but one of my favorites was the Belvedere Winery. No, it was Missouri State Penitentiary. We did it with Amy Burney and Adam Berry, and they were real hands-on that night. They were staying really close to everybody and jumping around from. We didn't really go in groups. We went kind of like some people were individuals, going in, and then there were teams going in. So they didn't like clump us into a group. So our team just went and did our thing in different areas, and they would come and jump into our team several times through the night. And one of my favorite things was Adam Berry giving me kind of a how to use the millimeter, the best way to use the millimeter. And we were in the graveyard there, and there was a storm approaching, and it was a full moon, and you could see the lightning. It was just like, it was a good memory. He's a good guy too. And then another favorite was the Belvedere Winery, again with Amy and Adam and Dave Schrader. And that night, after because I think we were there 2 or 3 days, we all went with Amy and Adam and Dave Schrader to the casino. So a lot of times it's not about the investigation. It's about, who you get to hang out with and who you get to see again. And because a lot of times our friends in the paranormal community live so far away, we don't see them until, we get together at another event. And I'll say Missouri State was pretty neat. We had Steve from Ghost Adventures hanging out with us for a long time in one of the cells in the dungeon. And that's on our YouTube channel. So, like I say, a lot of times it's the investigation part of it is really neat, but it's pretty neat to be able to go out and learn a lot and see people like I said, you haven't seen for a while. So
I agree. I had a question in my head, and boy, it just dropped like a ton of bricks. Earlier they were talking about phones ringing, so that brought me up to a question. Have you ever had, have you ever been in a place where there was actually one of the old type phones, and you know the type I'm talking about, where you have to lift that receiver thing off and put it up to your ear, and you got the cone that you speak into?
Yeah, in fact, there's a town here in Kansas. When I was a kid, they had those, and everybody had their own ring, like a half a ring, a whole ring.
Yeah, even just the ring was different from
right. Yeah, it was party line.
If you ever was in a place investigating where they actually had one of those and heard it ring?
I haven't.
Me either.
No.
I think that would be really interesting.
We are trying to get in, and we were gonna get in, except the team couldn't get together on the dates, but we were gonna also do coming up the Galena Murder Bordello. A lot of people are saying it's not haunted, but I think it's got it's just an interesting old building. And that's another thing too, a lot of these places, to keep their historical building going, they're letting the investigators come in and charging them, and it helps keep up the upkeep of the building and
right.
Keep the bills and keep the lights on. And that was one reason we were doing the Haunted Asylum in Chitopa, because it is a Halloween attraction and a haunted house, and during the off seasons they were having issues, trying to keep their bills paid. So they would let, everybody come in and charge everybody, I think, $20 a head, and basically let you have the run of their building for the whole night. So
that's the way it ought to be.
Yeah.
These places that charge you, $150, $200 a head, and all that stuff to investigate in there. I think it's a ripoff, a lot of it.
I was just looking in chat. One of the furthest places we've investigated, and I think it was Neosho, Missouri. In fact, the young man's house that I investigated there was really interested in what we were doing, and he's now started his own team. In fact, he's borderline paranormal, and he's based out of Joplin, Missouri. And he's they're doing a lot. So, and I'm real proud of him. His name's Corey Beaver. But
Okay.
that's probably the furthest investigation I went to.
I got to jump in here real quick. We are live on WCJV Digital Broadcasting out of Youngstown, New York. This is Half Past Dead Paranormal Radio with your host, Roger Belt, and my guests, Janice Brunner Freeze and Mike Coy. And we're talking about long distance, your furthest, long distance investigation, I guess. Now, these guys, they come up because you came and investigated his house and they decided, hey, I like that, or?
Yeah, he was I think he was interested anyway. In fact, a lot of times when we have the client present, they don't really observe. I mean, I'm not saying always, but I mean, a lot of times it's kind of disruptive. People talk, they're not thinking about what we're trying to do there with the audio and video.
Right.
But when it came to Corey, he sat there the whole night and he just took everything in, and he just observed, and he knew when we would shut down a session, then he would start talking, and just really respectful of what we were doing and really got what we were doing. And then after the evening went on and we ended it, he then told me, he was really interested in starting his own team and how would he do that. And so I kind of walked him through, everything that I had done, and they're doing pretty good. I think he's going on 2 years now. So, and they are a team to check out if you haven't on Facebook. And like I said, it's Borderline Paranormal Investigators. And
I think I've seen that one.
Yeah, they're a young group, and he has his sister on there. In fact, one of the girls he has on there, she came to me and she wanted to be a part of my team. But I told her, she was closer to Corey, so I suggested that she try to hook up with Corey because that way she wouldn't have to travel too far. Because like Mike I have here, he lives in Caney, which is how far?
About an hour away from here.
Yeah, an hour away. And then I have another gal in Burlington, and she lives an hour and away. And then I have one in, where is Jeff?
He's in Garnett.
He's
about an hour.
Another hour. And then I have Molly, who's in...
She's up around Kansas City.
She's around Kansas City. She travels from Kansas City. So a lot of my team members, none of them are local.
That's what mine is.
Yeah, I have 3 local, and the rest are not local. And I believe...
I have 1 local and 2 that are like an hour away.
And I believe we have 10 on the team now. We've just brought Mike's daughter, Amber, to the team. So, but I think if I was to do a head count, there's 10 of us. And I like it that way because there are times when I can use so many, and then there's times I can only use a few. Or if I have that many, I can always guarantee that at least one's going to come with me. And that's kind of what I'm going through for tomorrow. I need somebody with me. We haven't revealed that yet, Roger.
Right. Okay, if anybody has any questions for Janice, y'all feel free to call in 716-745-4266. Or Mike.
Janice was talking about Galena Bordello, and I was there once, and using dowsing rods in a bedroom, and supposedly there's a spirit of a little girl in the house, and I was communicating with her, getting some pretty good reaction on my dowsing rods, and all of a sudden the door went shut on me by itself, and we opened it back up, and we could not get it. I mean, jumping up and down and hitting the walls, and we couldn't get it to shut by itself again.
Huh.
Thought that was pretty neat.
Yeah.
Well, he was just talking about that. It just reminded me of a investigation we did, and it was Elk Creek, Fall River, I believe it was. And the woman had been pushed down to her stairs, and her dog would not go upstairs. In fact, you could see the claw marks on the stairs where the dog was literally holding on as it was being pushed down the stairs. So it was trying to hold on as it was being pushed. And I believe I had seen a complete possession there, and it was one of my team members who had on the team for 3 years. He just recently left the team like 5 months ago. And he was our big quiet guy. And he was never aggressive, always soft-spoken. But in that house, we saw something come over him that I had never seen happen before. And even his coloring, he got really cold. He got very verbally abusive. He even, after that night we left there, and it was saying his name and saying that, he, I think danger or something came out, or, something to the effect that they didn't like James. His name was James, not was. And, a couple of days later after that, he had wrecked his car. He'd hit a deer. And then after that, he walked out of his job of 10 years. And then after that, his health went downhill. That's one reason he's not on the team. So it's really important to protect yourself. I have a feeling it had a lot to do with that place. And in the person that is living in the house, just recently I just saw her post on Facebook that she hadn't been on Facebook for a while because she had fallen down those stairs again and both of her arms were broken. So, yeah. I don't know where I was going with that one either, but when it comes to, I think I was going with the possession thing. You got to be very careful and you got to protect yourself. And like you were saying, Roger, about opening and closing with prayer, shutting down and protecting. You there, Roger?
Now, what would you suggest to somebody that was just starting out and, didn't have any experience? What would you suggest that they do?
Well, what I did was when I came here to Kansas from San Diego, and that was 10 years ago. And I was interested in starting my own team, so I started finding out different types of investigations that teams set up in different areas, like I see Kansas City Paranormal's doing some of those, and I believe it was Dusk to Dawn Paranormal, and going in, and you do pay. And there was, I can't remember the name of the team. I did a place in Fort Scott. It was the Crawford Street House. And that was, I paid into that one. But you go and you pay and go on investigations. And that way, when I was going to the investigations, I could see, the inner workings of a team, the equipment they were using, was able to ask questions. But instead of just jumping out there and doing it, I'd suggest you go in and go on some of these different events or locations that these teams set up and go that have some time under their belt and go see exactly what they're doing and how they're doing it. And that would be my number one, my number one advice to them if they're just starting out. And
I always had the philosophy that if a person wanted to start a team, before they went looking for members to start a team, they should also get with an experienced team, go on some investigations, get some experience under their belt.
Right.
Therefore, when they bring in members, if they're not experienced, they can teach them.
Right.
And the safety points and, and all kind of stuff that people need to know when they get into this.
Right. I totally agree with you. And then that's another thing too with the team. I kind of liken it to being like a chain link fence. You've got to get team members that work well with you and personalities that work well together.
Exactly. Yeah.
And a lot of times, bring somebody in and you're not going to know if they're going to work well until, they've done an investigation.
Right.
It's kind of like being a boss. Sometimes you got a lot of people not liking you because you don't invite them back.
Well, you bring somebody in and they want to do everything their way and they don't want to listen to anything you say. And yeah. Mars asked, have you ever come across any possessed objects?
Have I ever come across any possessed objects?
I haven't. That's I can think of.
I'm trying to think. A water pump. There's a water pump in here that growls at you. I don't know. We had did the Safari Museum in Chanute, Kansas, and they had opened up a basket with this doll that was made with human blood. And that thing was really, really creepy. And they had an ovulus there that night, and the ovulus was spewing off words that they didn't think it had anything to do with their investigation, but for me, I thought, and I don't know if it had anything to do with the doll or not, but they were saying, no women should look at this doll. Well, I was like, well, the men can come look at it, but if any of the women look at it, then they're it's at their own risk because it's not ever supposed to be seen by women. But of course, I wanted to see it. And then after that, the ovulus started spouting off certain words, and one of them was my dog's name, and the other was my dad's name, and another was tree, and kind of those words that come off in the ovulus. But the one was not Buddy, my dog's name, but it was his name when I first got him, which was Pluto, which is in the ovulus vocabulary, and then Charles, which is a pretty common name. But anyhow, I got home that night. After all that happened, I felt really compelled to get home because my dad has dementia. I had him home alone at the time, and I get home, and just as I get home, my dog is stuck outside. He can't get in the house. My dad has locked the door. Bad thunderstorm is rolling in. As I pull in the driveway, a tree branch breaks and almost hits my dog, Pluto. I don't know. But I was thinking maybe I should never have looked at that creepy doll that night. But, it could have just been a whole variety of coincidence, is what I'm trying to say. But I don't think I've ever, besides that doll, ever seen anything. Have you?
No, I've never. Nothing I ever noticed anyway, as far as being possessed.
And who asked that question?
Mars.
Has Mars ever had anything? I wonder. Are you talking like an Annabelle doll? I hope not, ever. Dolls just in general, if you have them on your shelves.
This doll, what was it about human blood and the doll?
Yeah, they had made the doll with human blood. And it had human hair, too.
Okay, am I to understand that this doll has human blood inside of it, or?
Or they've made the materials in making the doll was with human blood. In fact, you might be able to go on the Safari Museum website there in Chanute, Kansas, and look that up, because I know they have something about that doll on there. I know that's a very interesting place there too, and they will let investigators come in and investigate, but there are parts of that museum that they close off.
Okay, first one they tell you about is Mira. He's got and I forget how old he said it was. It's really old, and you see images in it.
Ooh.
And he had to move it out of his living room, like into the hallway somewhere where, you wasn't constantly looking in it, I guess, because, you would see.
What kind of images does he see?
Like, I guess faces and stuff. He said it's 200 years old.
Oh, my.
And the faces that you see in it aren't yours.
Ooh. Yeah.
So, yeah, that's a little on the creepy side, but I kind of like it,
The creepier, the better. In fact, that's how we are. We go into investigations and people are telling us stories and we're like, yeah, hell yeah, we're ready.
Right. And, I see all these posts on Facebook where they show, like, really creepy looking houses, and they're like, would you stay the night there? And you got these people going, no way, no way. And I'm like, show me the door.
Yeah.
No, I'm ready.
Yeah, it's we like the adrenaline. It's
yeah,
roller coaster ride.
Yeah, exactly. To me, a place like that is like an average kid going to a fun house.
Right.
You don't know what to expect. You don't have a clue what's going on. You haven't had a million people telling you, oh, this place is haunted and there's all this. So you go find out for yourself. And also one of my favorite things, and especially the older houses like that, where people have left stuff behind.
Right.
Yeah.
A world of history in these places. Heck, I don't go in there all scared I'm going to see a ghost. I go in there thinking I'm going to go in here and look at the fancy woodwork they had back then, and if they left like old vanities and bed frames and all kind of old antique stuff. And then if a ghost pops up, more the better.
Yep.
Do we have any local people in chat?
Local to where?
Local to us, Kansas.
Anybody or close to it in the chat room?
Yeah, maybe people left things behind
for a reason. Oh yeah. Somebody in chat said maybe they left things behind for a reason.
Mars said it's 18th century.
Canada.
That's
here.
Cool. Now see, I could see me hanging that up. Of course, my wife would never let me put it in the living room, but I would hang it in here in my bedroom where I could look at that sucker all the time.
Well, the reason I was asking about local is because when it comes to investigating, like I say, a lot of times we go into, especially a private residence, and we like to go in kind of without the information from the client, because we don't want, how do I want to put this? We don't want them, like clogging our mind with, what they've got. We want to go in and see what we get.
Exactly.
It's not coming out the way I wanted to say it. So, and then afterwards we will do the history on the home, especially if they're private residents around here. We have a really good genealogy section at our local library, and there's one of the librarians that's very helpful and helps me go through all the old archives and she'll go through the microfiche and different things and help me with the, the looking up the history of the property and the past homeowners or tenants or whatever.
I look at it the same way, whenever somebody brings a medium on a case, they won't give them any information. They just let them walk in and see what they get.
Right.
That's what I want to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't tell me about it. Let me go in there and see myself.
Well, and that's kind of happened because Mike said he was in the Browns mansion several times, and when I took that big group in, that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to go in there and see what we got, and not have like a big tour of what was going on. And same with the Sally house. I just wanted to go in there and kind of, and I still don't know all the history on the Sally house. I keep hearing different stories all the time. But what I was getting back to, and the reason I was asking about if there was anybody local, is because sometimes you got to be careful when you're investigating that you're not actually really investigating something that could come back to bite you in the butt. And that kind of happened to us when we did one in a local town, and it happened to be on a suicide that had happened 10 years before. Well, and there was a daughter, and she was a rich businessman's daughter, and she was, hooked up with the local bad boy. Well, then the local bad boy ends up dying kind of mysteriously one night, shooting himself, and the mother of the son ends up taking it to court, and there was a big, long, drawn-out thing, and the mother ended up dying of cancer. So she never did get it straightened out, with the courts but they were kind of aiming towards somebody in the girl's family and being the demise of this young man, and that it was foul play. Well, as we started interviewing people and talking to different people, and the kids that were high school kids at that time, which were now, in their, 20s, late 20s, everybody was saying, you best just drop it. Because most of the people believed who had something to do with it was still running around the town and was looked on as like a god in the town. So that's why I'm saying sometimes with investigating, you got to tread lightly sometimes on, what you're investigating, because we opened up like a big can of worms. So we just decided, because we were invited back to that location. First we were invited in by the people renting the place, but then the owners of the location, the tenants moved out that were renting it, and then the owners wanted us to come back in. And we decided we weren't going to do that one. We were just going to leave Better Left Alone, Better Left Alone on that one. You there? So
are you saying it was that bad that you didn't want to go back? And
yeah, no spelling police here. LOL. What's that? Nope. Ontario. I was reading your.
Somebody was talking about they made a spelling mistake, and we were saying there's no spelling police here.
Oh, no spelling police.
Yeah, if you boo-boo, you boo-boo.
So, so what I was saying was that we were stirring up an old pot, and a lot of people seem to believe that the person responsible for the young man's death was still running around the community.
Right. So
we thought this one was just best left alone.
Well, was there not a way that you could contact the spirit of this young man and find out who the killer was?
And that was one of the things that had come up, and I had spoke to a medium that I know through Facebook, and I believe one of the EVPs came out and said the father did it, or the dad did it.
His dad or her dad?
I'm thinking her dad.
That would make more sense,
Yes. Not his dad. In fact, I don't think the young man's dad was ever, or had been in the picture. I think that's reason he had, you know, kind of turned into the bad boy in the community.
Right.
The story, but this girl was, you know, her daddy's princess, and
well, most of them are. Mine are my princesses too.
Right. Well, yeah, and you wouldn't want somebody messing with your princess, right? So.
Well, they'd be Prince Nutless. Just saying, but you know. But yeah, I mean, you would think that maybe you could get somebody could connect with this young man's spirit and find out for sure, you know.
That's one reason we felt compelled to go back, because once the story started, you know, coming all together, but then after we found out about the princess's father, we decided we didn't want to go back. So.
Well, true. I mean, he might not want that information out, you know.
Right. So you know, but yeah, maybe somewhere down the road we might get back in there. But that whole area of where we were investigating is pretty old anyway. The square. Yeah. I whispered where it was. But Mike's aware. A lot of these little Kansas towns are really old towns, so. And some of them are barely even going anymore. I don't know how they keep going.
This has been very interesting. We got about 4 minutes left.
Okay.
The time has flown by.
That's okay. I think I've ran out of things to say.
Nah, you were doing good. Very interesting, actually. You were saving the best for last there, weren't you? About the dad and the suicide and all that.
Yeah, I did have one more thing though. Remember?
Well, go ahead.
Okay, we were asked to do a TV segment in our little town of Chanute tomorrow, to come in and bring our equipment and do a segment. So, and it's a public TV, so what airs on there is like repeated over and over and over again. So, I'm gonna do it. Nobody else on the team can come except for one other lady, Janice, and she's the other Janice, spelled exactly the same way as mine. But she said she'll come hold my hand, so. But, it's pretty exciting. I just hope I don't screw it up. So
I've got I'm a cable guy, and I've been doing the job for a very long time.
Are you the cable guy?
He's the real cable guy.
But, you know, I'm in a lot of people's homes, and since I started doing investigations, it's amazing how you just mention something about the paranormal, and a lot of people just open up and tell you all kinds of neat stories.
Well, some will run the other way, and some will have 1,000 tales to tell. You know,
yeah,
I mean,
exactly. Yep. Which I actually lived in a haunted house about 11 years ago, and it was really cool. Me and my wife, we sold a house that unexpectedly, so we was trying to find something to at least move into for a while. And we went to look at this house just to see if we could see in the window. We knew it was for sale, and try and check it out. Couldn't see in. The front door was locked. Went around the back door. The storm door was open, but the wooden door was locked. I tried it, and then I shut the storm door, and we started walking away, and we heard a click, and I went back and checked, and the door was unlocked. And so we went inside and looked, and we ended up buying the house. And you smell. We think the lady that possessed the house, name was Mildred. She owned the house at one time, had it built, and we smelled her perfume. She liked turning on the stereo full blast in the middle of the night. My oldest granddaughter seen her standing in the corner of the spare bedroom once. And just all kinds of things happened continuously while we was living in the house. Nothing bad, just she just let you know that she was around, which I thought was cool.
Oh yeah, I love stuff like that.
Sorry.
Okay, we're going to have to get ready to shut this thing down. I want to thank everybody, Janice, Mike especially, Morris, CJ, Kat, Dita, Enoch, Marianne, Kimberly's already gone. Everybody listening on your iPads, iPhones, computers, whatever you're listening on, can't do a show without you. We appreciate you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Enjoyed it.
Y'all have a great night. We'll see you next week. I don't have an announcement as of yet, but you know I'll have one soon.
We count on you, Roger.
I know. Anyway, we're out of here. Bye-bye till next week, you guys. Thanks for coming.
Thank you for tuning in to Half Past Dead Paranormal with your host, Roger Belt. We hope you've enjoyed the show, and tune in again next week as we look for more answers to the unexplained, unknown, and unseen. Stay safe and happy hauntings.
Welcome to my breakdown.
See you soon.